Stephanie, we have been talking a lot about predictions of what's coming this summer with mass chaos and terrorist attacks and election interference. And one of the issues that we keep seeing or hearing about more frequently is this threat of cyber attacks. And this was even one of the predictions that was being made during the World Economic Forum a few months ago. And we both know that whenever the World Economic Forum talks about a threat of any kind, they have a hand in creating it. And just a couple weeks ago, we had the White House sending out letters to state governors warning about critical infrastructure cyber attacks, specifically to water and wastewater systems, as being a major target for foreign threats. And this letter went into detail about confirmed threats from both Iran and China. And now we have security experts sounding the alarm about potential disruptions across the country. And then this week, we have this so-called cyber attack, quote, conspiracy theory surrounding the tragedy of the Francis Scott Key Bridge that collapsed in Baltimore this week. And Stephanie, you are the conspiracy queen, so I know you have to have some good information on this.
Oh, I do. And I just have to say, we have been so on it with making predictions so far for this year. And I don't know if it's because we're just super tapped into our intuition or we're just really good at identifying patterns, but we have been spot on so far with knowing what's coming. And I was just on vacation, totally checked out, no technology. I turn on my phone while I'm getting ready in the morning and I see the bridge collapsing. And then I was like, oh my gosh. So then I forget vacation. I was on full conspiracy mode. So I'm sure by now everyone's heard, at least the basics of this cargo ship that lost propulsion. And when it lost propulsion, crew members were actually able to put out a distress call, which is great because then traffic on the bridge was averted. So there weren't any cars, what they're saying, on the bridge, but there were 6 construction workers that I guess were filling potholes on the bridge at the time of collapse. And you can see the video, and I encourage everyone to watch the full video, the longer clip, because you see a lot more and alarm bells start going off. So in the video, you see the lights flicker, and then the bridge kind of starts floating. And I mean, it looks like it's turning and aiming right for the bridge. It's the craziest thing. And then it hits the bridge and the whole bridge collapses within seconds. It's just the craziest thing I think I've seen in a long time. So far, they have found 2 bodies of construction workers that were trapped inside of their truck at about 25 feet deep. Rescue workers are now trying to recover the black box. So I didn't realize that cargo ships have this black box, just like planes, which makes sense. But that will give a lot of information, not just on the mechanical info, but the speed, the trajectory, so many different things, including the conversations between the pilot or the captain and the crew members. So that'll probably help the investigation a lot. Now, they just held a press conference this morning, so we're getting updates as we speak. But so far, they announced that, no surprise here, there were 764 tons of hazardous materials on board, and some of those containers were breached. And so the officials in this press release said that they have reported sheen on the water, which is an indicator that there are hazardous materials in the water, which makes the recovery and just the cleanup and everything so much more difficult and expensive. And it's just a nightmare. And so Washington quickly, within 30 minutes of this happening, said oh, it's not an act of terror, everything's fine, which it's how do you know that within 30 minutes? They haven't even started the investigation at that point. But I want you guys to listen to another perspective from Laura Logan on Steve Bannon's war room. So listen to what her intel sources told her about the whole situation.
What is your investigation telling you?
Well, I have a better question for you, Steve. Why are you coming to the mic telling the country that it's not terrorism when your own intelligence agencies are telling you it is? And I know they are because I didn't make this up. These are not my words, right? I'm talking to people who are on the inside, some who are on active duty, some who are retired, and everyone, literally from critical infrastructure in Department of Homeland Security to the intelligence agencies, they know there's no other. It's there. This is a cyber attack on a critical infrastructure corridor for the United States. This is, for those people who think this is just a river, this is in Baltimore, what does this matter? You don't know anything about what you're talking about. The I-94 corridor on the eastern seaboard is literally what connects the north and south. And when I talk about hazardous materials, right, this is a brilliant, well-planned strategic attack on one of the most important supply chains in the United States of America. The only other one is in the western side in California. That's the only one that's busier. And what you have done, you now have shut it down. And when I talk about hazardous materials, what are we talking about here? This is refined fuels, right? This is propane gas. This is diesel. This is fuel. This is flammable materials. This is oversized loads, nitrogen, chemicals. Everything that you need for your economy to move has literally just been shut down for 4 to 5 years.
Wait, these are the we
So I don't know how she's still alive because the stuff she talks about, it's like, better watch your back, girl.
I think
But
they have
that's
to leave.
crazy.
They have to leave like a few alive just to kind of
Yeah,
keep.
otherwise it's like too obvious.
Yeah.
The second, so I watched the full video of the cargo ship and I was like, oh my gosh. And then right after that, I heard that and I was like, what are the odds, that it hits this major, major port for where we get gas and fuel and everything else? Like, it just seems a little suspect.
Just a little. And even if this isn't a cyber attack, is it some kind of other purposeful infrastructure attack? Because apparently, this is the third commercial ship in the last 3 months that's collided with a bridge and caused extensive damage. There was an article that came out in CNN this week, and in late February, a cargo ship rammed into the Lixinsha Bridge in the Pearl Delta River in China, which I guess is a major international shipping hub and considered like the industrial heartland of China. And then in January, there was a large cargo ship that collided with the Zarate Brazo Largo bridges crossing the Prana River in Argentina. So, three major like crashes of cargo ships into bridges in 3 months. Like, is this not eerily reminiscent of last year's multitude of quote accidental train derailments?
Yeah, I know. You read my mind. That's exactly what I thought about after hearing Lara Logan discuss the impact that it's going to have on our supply chain. It's like all the dots connected on like everything we've been talking about for the last couple years. All the train derailments, the explosions at food plants and farms, and now bridges. And it's like a genius plot to destroy America by crippling our supply chain. And like, I 100% think this is super intentional. I don't think it was an accident. The question is, who is behind it? Like, who stands to benefit from our supply chain falling? And like, obviously, China is the first thing that comes to mind. But, also it's like Bill Gates would definitely profit from us having to rely on like his farms and food sources. Then you have like the World Economic Forum and the United Nations that would benefit because a weakened America plays into their whole global agenda of like depopulation and 15-minute cities. But then I heard something on Alex Jones' podcast that made everything click. And now, before anyone listening rolls their eyes at Alex Jones, just think about this for a second. Like, the stuff that he has been like ranting about for decades has all happened. Like, it's
Yep.
all come true. So yeah, he seems a little cuckoo, but at the same time, all this stuff that he's talking about keeps happening. So I feel like we got to at least listen to it. So I'm going to play this clip real quick.
So I import cars into the Port of Baltimore. It is a major, major, major hub for military and heavy equipment. I mean, the old heavy equipment, I think, the last time I heard it was like 40% of everything that comes off the East Coast comes to the Port of Baltimore, heavy equipment. So if you were looking from a Russian perspective, and wanted to stop exports to Europe.
This is a major military target. That's what Flynn's saying.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. That's the first thing. Second thing, then you look at the party who is in charge of the course, that would be the Department of Transportation, that would be big. And if you look at him, he's about communist. His father was the translator for Antonio Gramsci's prison memoirs. He's about communist. He also has a military background as a naval officer. They have reduced clubs coming in and out of all ports by 40%. So in that circumstance, you have to look at how many, like, you can see the redundancy in your organization with all the backup generators and whatnot. A ship like that has 4 or 5 systems of redundancy. And then even the fail-safe on that would be the clubs that channel that ship through that key choke point at the bridge. No clubs and losses of 4 or 5 redundant systems on a ship like that. It's absolutely statistically impossible.
That's another thing. I'm not an expert. Far from.
Okay, it's statistically impossible when they have like all of these, fail-safe things in place. So I don't know. I think we have to ask the question, what is the one common denominator in all of the disasters that we have been talking about over the last couple of years? Buttigieg, or butt gig, as this guy said, the transportation secretary. It's butt gig. I mean, like, think about it though. You look at him and you're like, this guy is just a complete incompetent idiot. But like, maybe that's exactly what he wants everyone to think. I mean, how can you fail? How can your department like consistently fail left and right with these major, major disasters before someone like looks into it? Like, could he be behind it? I don't know. At the very least, he's incompetent and should be fired. But I think we got to ask the question. And not to mention, remember that like mega infrastructure package that they passed, and like it's all
Where none
Biden
of it
talks
went to
about.
our infrastructure.
Yeah, like our infrastructure is worse than ever. So it's like, what happened to all that money? And like, why keep bragging that you got this infrastructure package passed when clearly it's not working, like nothing's being fixed? So there's another theory. There's a lot of theories out there. So the next theory is General Michael Flynn posted on X that this is a black swan event and to look into the harbor master. Well, when you look at the log, the ship master is actually a Ukrainian. So now there's like this whole theory that this is Ukraine basically saying like, fuck around and find out. Like, we didn't approve their big funding package. So they're going to like attack us, kind of like the mobster who would attack someone that like owed them money. And on the Redacted podcast, they showed this post from a Ukrainian Telegram channel, and it had like the video of the bridge collapsing, and the caption said, quote, "Gur beauties, they work all over the world without hesitation. If you don't accept the aid package, then get it. Look forward to our surprises throughout Europe. We will teach you to defend democracy and help those who need it." So like, who knows? I mean, it could just be some crazy person, or there could be something to it. I don't trust Ukraine. I think it's corrupt as fuck. But that's just one of the many theories out there. So what do you think, Tara? What do you think happened here?
Have you heard like the DEI theory too? I didn't make any
No.
notes on it. I didn't make notes on it, but someone was like blaming the whole thing on the fact that the company that owns the ship it was blaming it on their DEI policies. And then I saw something earlier today about like from one video angle, you could see an explosion on the bridge right before it happened, but then that's supposedly like an AI fake. And I think that, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. Now that AI is such a big thing, how the fuck do we know what's real and what isn't anymore
Yeah,
when it
that's a good
comes to
point.
these videos and pictures? We have no clue. But I wouldn't be surprised if any of these theories are true, because we've gotten to the point where I literally just don't trust that these types of events aren't happening on purpose. Accidents happen, and 5 years ago, I would have said, wow, this is like a really unfortunate tragedy. But my brain doesn't function that way anymore because
I
there's just been
know.
too much weird shit. And I've heard people say like, okay, if this was a cyber attack or it was like a purposeful target, then why did it happen in the middle of the night where there wasn't any major traffic on the bridge? And like, wouldn't it make more sense to do that in like daytime or during rush hour? But on the flip side, if you look at it from the perspective of supply chain disruption, it doesn't need to happen during rush hour or when the bridge is highly populated. Like, this is gonna have an enormous impact on our supply chain, and from everything that I read and from that video that you played, the Port of Baltimore is a critical shipping hub. I guess it's like the ninth busiest port in the United States in terms of international trade, and so you best believe this will result in fucking our economy even further. And I also read that, like, what's one of the major products that comes through the Port of Baltimore? Farming and construction machinery. And I was reading an article in Wired that said last year 1.3 million tons of farm and construction equipment came through the port. So even though it's like possible to transport by land, obviously, this is going to have a trickle down effect on our already completely fucked up farming industry. It's going to cause an increase in prices due to the laws of supply and demand. So, and they're saying what? It may take years to rebuild
Mhm.
this bridge.
Like 5
Like in,
years.
yeah, exactly. And I also want to point out that, like, once again, Biden has taken a tragedy and he's made it all about himself with his idiotic lies. So during the press conference after this happened, he said that he's been over the bridge, quote, many, many times commuting from the state of Delaware, either by train or by car, end quote. First of all, like, stop making everything about you. Nobody relates to you. Nobody wants to hear your fake attempts at connecting with people. And if that is your angle, at least get your fucking facts straight and be sincere. Like, the Amtrak train that you took from Delaware to DC doesn't cross the harbor on the Francis Scott Key Bridge. It goes around the harbor. There are no fucking tracks on the bridge.
He
And
even
like,
lies about stupid shit. Like, what is the purpose
that's
of
my
lying about that?
exactly, and it's like, we see through your intentions. So he vows in this speech on Tuesday that he's gonna move heaven and earth to fix the bridge as soon as possible, and the federal government is gonna pay for the entire cost of the reconstruction. Well, that's interesting because I don't hear him speak emphatically about moving heaven and earth to secure our border. And he certainly didn't move heaven and earth and have the federal government cover the full cost of damage when the East Palestine train derailment happened and thousands of people were impacted. And he didn't fucking move heaven and earth to help the victims of the Maui fires who lost their homes and their livelihoods and their family members. Oh, but wait, they all got like what, $700 or something as
Yeah.
compensation. So he can send billions to Ukraine, but the people of Maui get $700. And then suddenly he's vowing to move heaven and earth to repair a bridge in an election year. Why? Because this is like another move by the Biden admin in a desperate attempt to get votes by acting like he gives a fuck when we all know that he doesn't.
I'm surprised he didn't blame it on Trump because it seems like he does that with everything that happens.
Oh, I'm sure that's coming once they get into the investigation.
Yeah.
But like, speaking of cyber attacks, aside from this, let's take a look at what's happening in Europe because there's weird shit going on here too. So on Wednesday, the Daily Mail reported that since Sunday, there have been more than 1,600 planes that have been hit with technical problems by GPS jamming. And this has been happening in airspace over Poland, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Latvia, and Lithuania. And the MSM is reporting that who's behind these attacks? Russia, because there's no interference taking place in Belarus, which is a Russian ally, and nothing happening in Kaliningrad. And a Lithuanian defense source told Newsweek, quote, Russian armed forces have a wide spectrum of military equipment dedicated for GNSS, global navigation satellite systems interference, including jamming and spoofing at varying distances, duration, and intensity, end quote. So, of course, let's blame Russia.
Russia, Russia, Russia. I feel like they're like creating scenarios so that they have an excuse to like invade Russia or like start World War III.
Yeah.
But like speaking of planes, what the hell is happening with planes? What's happening with Boeing? It's like every day there's another incident where a plane is defective. And again, like you have to wonder if it's sabotage because why all of a sudden? It's like all of a sudden there's all these issues left and right with planes. We go years and years and years and there's nothing going on. And then all of a sudden in months, there's like numerous issues. And it's
Mhm.
like, were the issues there before and no one was reporting it? Or is it all just like a coincidence that it's happening? Like, I don't believe in coincidences. So it's like, I think there could be some type of intentional sabotage. Like maybe this could be a way to get people to stop traveling. I don't know. There's something weird going on. And the fact that the Boeing whistleblower turned up dead makes me think that, like, there is something going on and it's much bigger than we think. And I think now it's just like a rule of thumb that if a whistleblower is killed and then they call it a suicide, it's probably the Clintons. Like, that's my theory. That's my new rule of thumb. It's the Clintons.
Oh,
Hillary is at it
yeah,
again.
absolutely. Because this is happening like way more frequently. And I'm sorry, these people are not all committing suicide.
No, it's weird.
Yeah. And then let's take a look at China, right? So now we have multiple countries saying that Chinese intelligence agencies are increasing their cyber attacks around the world as a test to see how foreign governments are going to respond. So there's been this whole thing going on in the UK, and The Guardian reported on Tuesday that now the UK and the United States have sanctions, and they've officially accused this hacking group called Advanced Persistent Threat, or APT 31, which is backed by China's government spy agency. They're accusing this group of conducting years long cyber attack campaigns targeting politicians, national security officials, journalists, and businesses. And so in the UK, hackers reportedly gained access to information on over 40 million UK voters. In the United States, the DOJ is alleging that more than 10,000 malicious emails were sent by APT 31 targeting home routers and other devices, including those of high ranking US officials, politicians, and election campaign staff from both the Republican and Democrat side. The FBI this week charged 7 Chinese nationals in connection with what they're calling a 14-year hacking campaign. Then in New Zealand, they said on Tuesday that they believe China is responsible for an attack on their country's parliament entities in 2021, and a Taiwan based cyber threat analysis firm called T5 has been monitoring increased and consistently evolving hacking efforts by Chinese groups in the Pacific region and Taiwan over the past 3 years. But here's what I want to know. Like the incident with the cyber attack on the Electoral Commission in the UK happened in August of 2021. All of the details came to light in October of 2022. And these Chinese nationals hackers in the United States that have reportedly been operating for 14 years. Why is it that it's only during this past week in March of 2024 that these reports are suddenly surfacing? Like, I think this is like a clear case of priming the American public for election interference in the form of cyber attacks that we already know is going to happen. And I already know much of it's going to be done by our own government. But by bringing all this shit up, they can easily place the blame on China or Russia and get that into the people's heads.
No, it's a great point. And yeah, you want to know why I call bullshit? It's like, what about the spy balloon that they just ignored and like didn't think that was a big threat? Or like that guy Swalwell that was literally like dating a Chinese
Mhm.
spy, yet he's
Yeah.
still sitting on important committees in our government. But then they're going to like worry about this. And it's like China has all this advanced surveillance throughout their country. So, like, I'm sure they're surveilling the whole world, but our
Mhm.
government never seemed to care up until the election year. And you know who else predicted a major cyber attack? Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, like you said in the
Mhm.
beginning, and same with Bill Gates. So it's like, I definitely think they're up to something. And considering this is the biggest election year across the entire world, I'm sure they have something up their sleeve and they can just blame it on China or Russia like they blame everything else, or Trump, or
Yeah.
Trump
And now
and Russia.
Trump and Russia. Yeah. And now we have another opportunity to basically create chaos on the entire world stage, because now the head of national cybersecurity in France is warning that the Olympics, which are being held in Paris this year, I think in July, starts in July, that the Olympics are going to be a massive target for cyber attacks. And this guy told reporters that they're getting ready for all kinds of attacks from states that want to like disrupt the games or cause problems on public transport. And he said the three main dangers are state backed cyber attacks, cyber criminals trying to extort money during the Olympics, and hacktivists, hackers looking to cause trouble for fun or publicity. And then we have other experts who are warning that there's going to be problems with electronic ticketing systems and IT networks for sports venues. And so, I mean, seriously, is this not the perfect opportunity to have an event take place during the Olympics that will, of course, get blamed on probably Russia or China in an effort to have an impact on global politics?
Yeah, they're totally setting this up like
Yeah.
perfectly for something to happen.
Yeah. And then the other thing we keep hearing about is the threat of disruptions that, quote, may happen during this coming solar eclipse, which is like what, in a week and a half in April, I think April 8th.
Mhm.
And I've read all these articles about there's going to be air travel problems and you better stock up on emergency supplies because people aren't going to be able to get food and water and fuel. And, a lot of articles are saying this is just because, so many people are going to be traveling to places where the eclipse can be seen the best. So it's just going to be this influx of, tourists. But again, I feel like they're totally priming us for something to happen and that they're going to use the eclipse as yet another excuse to create more cyber attacks and disasters. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. There is definitely they're going to use this. Like think about how much they're talking about these solar flares and like how that can
Mhm.
cause, massive power outages. And it just seems like something is coming. And, maybe it will be a cover for a cyber attack of some sort. But listen to what I just found last night. Okay. According to a Forbes article, NASA is launching 3 rockets into the moon's shadow during the eclipse. But here's the best part, okay? The project is called Serpent Deity, which means snake god. Like, I'm not kidding. You can look it up. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the,
Yeah.
like, is that not weird? I'm sorry. Like, that is like creepy as hell. And like, why are they launching rockets into the moon's shadow? They're saying, like, oh, they're going to test the upper atmosphere. I don't know. The whole thing is just like, what is going on? And I definitely think there's something happening, like between this, the supposed solar flares, and then also numerous states are going to have the National Guard on duty for the eclipse. So it's like,
Mhm.
if I had to bet, I would say that shit's going down during this eclipse. So everyone should just like stay home and beware.
Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, but I'm gonna switch gears away from all the creepy, like, cyber attack talk and cyber attack talk. I said that correctly.
Yeah.
Didn't sound right in my head. Okay, but anyway, I wanna talk about something else that's going on this week. So, elections, right? So Biden and Trump are still like the main show, but we know RFK Jr. is running as an independent, and he's starting to gain some traction in the polls, especially with younger voters under 35 and with minorities. And I don't know how accurate this is, but I was reading in The Hill that around 70% of voters don't want Biden or Trump as the next president. And this week, RFK announced his running mate. And it's possible that he may attract more voters with her because she seems to be like the poster child for what they're trying to attract with this old school style traditional Democrat. Like she ticks all the boxes. She is female, minority, has the rags to riches story. She fits in the DEI agenda without seeming like a totally far left whack job. And her name is Nicole Shanahan. I'd never heard of her before, but she's a 38-year-old Asian American who grew up on welfare, and then she became a lawyer, and she founded this company called the Baya Echo Foundation, which is a nonprofit that does all these grants for like reproductive rights and equality and criminal justice reform and the environment. And then she's a single mom and she has a daughter with autism. And so again, she's checking all the boxes, right? And I guess she used to be married to Google co-founder Sergey Brin, and she's being referred to as a game changer because of her appeal to women and both Republicans and Democrats who are like sick of the Biden Trump race and don't want a repeat of 2020. Now, I personally don't think this is going to help RFK beat Trump, but what is your thoughts on his VP pick?
Well, I'm super disappointed in this pick. I didn't know much about her, but it's like she's beautiful, she's super wealthy, but you got to follow the money, right? And this woman has financially backed people like that DA Gascon or whatever his name is in
Yeah,
LA that's just
Gaston.
like letting criminals wreak havoc in the city. She's also donated to Hillary, Buttigieg, and Biden. And she describes herself as a progressive. And so my guess is that he's trying to appeal to like the pro-Palestinian progressives and like the people that are just done with Biden because they don't think he's progressive enough. And I mean, like you said, she's female, she's a person of color, she has like connections to billionaire donors. So I can see why, he chose that, but I think it's also going to hurt him because there's a lot of people like my husband, for example, that are more like right to the right, but don't want to vote for Trump. And I think this is going to turn them off. So I think they will capture some of these like far left progressives, but I think all the people on the right that are like, we're like rooting for him they're not going to vote for him at this point with her because she's definitely involved in basically the same people that Soros backs. And so that's a huge red flag for me. And it's unfortunate because I really liked RFK, but like I definitely can't back him with this VP.
Well, maybe this will just mean more votes for Trump.
Yeah, probably.
Okay, I have one more random question for you because it's Friday and we have to end on like a positive note, or maybe not positive, but at least entertaining and not scary like cyber attacks. So on Wednesday, Britney Spears announced that she's changed her name. So she's calling herself Zyla now, Xila, and she's telling people that now she has a hard time understanding English. Do you think she's off her meds? Like, or is this even really Britney Spears? Is it someone else? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so Britney Spears, Amanda Bynes, Kanye West, like all of them, it's like they go from being normal to being like definitely like there's something going on. And I really thought for a while, I'm like, that is not Britney Spears. I don't know who it is, but like it's someone else. But I heard an interesting theory the other day when all this stuff was coming out about Nickelodeon and like all the child
Mhm.
stars that like were dealing with all of this abuse. And they were talking about, if they would speak out, then they're like taken away to a mental institution, which we know that happened to Britney Spears. And that apparently like chemical lobotomies take place. And when you look at Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes, they have all of the symptoms of what someone that experienced a lobotomy would have, which is really sad. And I think that's probably more likely than it being like a body double or whatever, but it's really sad. And this poor girl, it's like she was, at the top of her game, like super talented, beautiful, and now she's just a hot mess. And I don't think she's ever coming back.
I don't either. And you mentioned Amanda Bynes, and I haven't thought of her in a long time, but what was that movie she was in where she was playing the boy playing soccer? Was it
Yeah,
She's the Man, or was that someone else?
I
I
don't,
don't know,
I
whatever it
think she
was.
was in that. Yeah.
She was so cute. And
Hmm.
like it was like she was awesome. And then I saw her years later and she was fucking scary. So
Have you heard her talk? She's on all over
no.
TikTok. She does not sound like a normal person. Like she sounds like a little bit like slowed down in her speech. And like there's definitely something going on, whether it's drugs or a lobotomy. Like the real Amanda Bynes is long gone. Like something happened to her and it's really sad. It's sad. So I feel bad for Brittany. And if that's Brittany, or Zyla.
Okay, so I guess we're
Whatever.
ending on a sad note after all.
Yeah, sorry guys. But it is sad. It's like these people, these poor child stars, they never turn out like good in the end. So anyhow, well, that was depressing, but also interesting.
I
So
tried.
yeah, you tried. All right. Well, we'll keep everyone posted on this investigation with the bridge and see what else comes of it. And then everyone watch out, be safe during this eclipse on April 8th because I just don't have a good feeling about it. So we'll see. We'll keep everyone posted.
Oh, and happy Easter because
Oh
it's
yeah,
Easter this weekend.
that's
Yeah.
right. Okay, happy Easter. There, that's a positive note.
There we
Okay.
go.
Everyone have a great Easter. We'll see you back here in a few days. Thanks for tuning in.